Good morning all of you. We will be discussing about bryophytes in this video lecture. We will discuss in details about the general characteristics of bryophytes and its life cycle. Well, you know that bryophytes are included under cryptogams. Okay. So, and they are placed higher up as compared to thallophytes are concerned. You know thallophytes, thallus bearing plants, that is plant body is not differentiated into roots, stems and leaf-like structure, which are generally in case of algae and fungi. So, bryophytes are a bit more evolved than algae and fungi. Got it? So, we will be discussing about its characters, general characters. Now, let us start. Bryophytes has been derived from two words, bryon and phyton. Bryon means your moss and phyton means plant. Rather, these are the non-vascular plants. You know what is non-vascular? Vascular tissues are absent here. What are those vascular tissues? That is xylem and phloem. Xylem and phloem are totally absent as far as bryophytes are concerned. And what is their habitat? They generally grow in moist and sandy places. Got it? And remember one thing, these are called as the amphibians of plant kingdom. Okay, because of the importance of water in completing their life cycle. We will be discussing about it, how water is and why water is essential for it. We will be discussing about it. So, we can say that these are the amphibians of plant kingdom. Got it? Now, if you want to classify the bryophytes, it can be divided into three classes. Hepaticopsida, which are otherwise known as liverworts. We will be discussing about it in the last part of our class. Then Anthoceratopsida, which are known as hornworts. Then Bryopsida, which are otherwise known as mosses. Got it? So, Hepaticopsida example is Rixia marcansea. Anthoceratopsida, Anthoceras, the example is, and Bryopsida is Funaria. One of the example of Bryopsida is Funaria. Got it? Now, let us come to the general characters of bryophytes. First, see how the bryophytes look like. You must have seen this particular structure. It is called Rixia. Got it? It is called Rixia. This particular structure, you have seen it in moist and sandy places. These are generally found. Okay. Then another, it's an example of, you remember it, liverworts. Got it? So, another one is your moss. Now, you might have seen in your very moist places, especially in walls, on walls, these kind of structures are found. Okay, these are called moss. This is the structure that you have seen. You might not have seen this one, but this is what you have seen. This is called moss. Okay, this one is called gametophyte and this one is called sporophyte. Got it? That I have drawn here. This particular section is called gametophyte and this particular section is called sporophyte. That we will be discussing in general characters of your bryophytes. Got it? So, now come to the general characters. As I have already told, the two terms, I have uttered two terms, that is gametophyte and sporophyte. So, we can say that the morphologically it has got two distinct generations. What are those? Gametophytic generation and sporophytic generation. Got it? Now, the gametophyte is haploid, dominant and autotrophic, and they bear the sex organs. In case of bryophytes, the gametophyte is haploid, dominant, autotrophic, and they bear the sex organs. And what about sporophyte? The sporophyte is diploid, just the opposite one. This one is gametophyte is haploid and the sporophyte is diploid, but it is short lived. Got it? And it is dependent, totally dependent on gametophyte. As the gametophyte is autotrophic, so sporophyte is totally dependent on gametophyte. Got it? Another important character, there is absence of true roots. Okay, in absence of true roots, what are found? There are presence of rhizoids and scales. As I have already told, these are non-vascular plants. So, you can see here that there is absence of vascular tissues and mechanical tissues. Vascular tissues, xylem, phloem are absent, and mechanical tissues are also absent. Okay. Another important character is that the gametophyte that we have discussed, it has got two types. Okay, in primitive forms. like your liver oats, okay, hepatic obsida. The gametophyte is prostrate and thalloid. Thalloid means the plant body thallus bearing. Thalloid means thallus bearing. That means plant body is not differentiated into roots, stems and leaf. Got it? So, in primitive forms of bryophytes, that is earlier bryophytes, the gametophyte is prostrate and thalloid. Whereas in case of advanced form of bryophytes, it is erect and is differentiated into stem and lateral appendages. We do not call it a stem, we call it as axis in case of your advanced bryophytes, and the lateral appendages are otherwise known as leaves. Okay. Now, plant body, entire plant body is made up of thin walled parenchymatous cells. Okay. Then reproduction occurs in case of bryophytes by both vegetative as well as sexual method. Fine. So, we can say that in the plant body consists of the gametophyte, and the gametophyte is dominant, and a small part is occupied in its life cycle is occupied by sporophyte, which is totally dependent on gametophyte. Now, the vegetative reproduction occurs by game, bulbil, adventitious branches and fragmentation. Okay, through fragmentation also vegetative reproduction occurs. Whereas sexual reproduction is oogamous type. Got it? Sexual reproduction is oogamous type. I have already discussed about oogamy in algae. Now, sex organs in case of bryophytes are multicellular and jacketed. Multicellular, made up of many cells, jacketed, that means they remain protected by some kind of tissues or some kind of cells. Okay, jacketed. Male sex organ is called antheridium, which produces biflagellate male gametes, otherwise called as antherozoids. Okay, the male sex organ is called antheridium, which produces biflagellate male gametes called antherozoids, whereas female sex organ is called archegonium with non-motile female gamete called egg. Got it? So, the male sex organ, that is antheridium, produces your biflagellate male gametes, which are called antherozoids. And in case of your female sex organ, that is called archegonium, it has got a non-motile female gamete called as egg. Non-motile female gamete called as egg. Okay. Now, as you can see in this particular diagram, this is the diagram of antheridium and this is the diagram of archegonium. You know that antheridium is the male sex organ and archegonium is the female sex organ. Got it? As far as antheridium is concerned, there is presence of a stalk. Then this one is the jacket. Okay. Here antherozoids are formed. Fine. Now, as far as female sex organ is concerned, this particular portion is called neck. This one is called venter. Got it? Now, this is called egg. Okay, this one is called venter. Now, let us come to the next slide. At maturity, the antherozoids which are formed in antheridium, they are released. Okay, and they cannot move by themselves. They move or they swim in a film of water to reach archegonium. So, antherozoids, in order to for the reproduction to happen, for the reproduction, sexual reproduction to happen, the antherozoids need to reach the egg so that fertilization will occur. Okay, and the next step will happen, that is zygote will be formed. But for that to happen, antherozoids are needed to be to reach the egg. And how they come to egg? They move or they swim through the water, film of water, and reach archegonium. This is the reason why water is very essential for the life cycle as far as your bryophytes are concerned. Okay, that is the reason why we call it as amphibians of plant kingdom. Now, only one of the antherozoid, though many antherozoids reach the archegonium, only one of the antherozoid fuses with the egg. Okay, once fusion occurs, which is otherwise known as fertilization, your zygote is formed, that is diploid zygote is formed. You know that the antherozoids are haploid, egg is haploid. When haploids combine, they give rise to diploid zygote. Now, the diploid zygote undergoes repeated division to form the embryo. Okay. Now further development of embryo inside the venter of archegonium occurs. Okay. Inside the archegonial venter it occurs further development of embryo, and as a result of which a multicellular projecting structure called sporophyte is formed. Okay. Now once the antherozoid reaches the egg of the archegonium, now it fuses with it, and all these things happen inside the venter of the archegonium to form zygote, and zygote gives rise to embryo. Now embryo further develops to form a multicellular projecting structure called as sporophyte. Okay. Now in some members like Rixia, your sporophyte is represented by capsule only, whereas in others like mosses it is represented by foot, seta and capsule. Now you can see in this diagram, this one is your Rixia. Here sporophyte is represented by the what? Capsule only. But as far as mosses are concerned, sporophyte is represented by capsule, then your foot, then your seta. Got it? So as you can see here, this sporophyte includes capsule, your seta and foot, and this particular leafy part is called gametophyte. Got it? So in members like Rixia, sporophyte is represented by capsule only, whereas in case of mosses it is differentiated to foot, seta and capsule. Now some of the cells inside the sporophyte, they become sporogenous, that is inside the capsule they become sporogenous and they undergo meiosis. Inside the capsule, some of the cells become sporogenous and they divide meiotically to form non-motile haploid spores. Meiosis takes place and non-motile haploid spores are formed. These non-motile spores are wind pollinated, that means they get pollinated with the help of wind, and under favorable condition they germinate to produce a young gametophyte. Got it? So these spores under favorable conditions they germinate to produce a young gametophyte. Now we will discuss about the two types of bryophytes, and that is we had discussed three classes, that is Hepaticopsida, Anthoceratopsida and your Bryopsida. Now we will discuss about only the Hepaticopsida, that is otherwise known as liverworts and mosses. Okay, liverworts. Now as you know, liverworts include Rixia. Now the plant body is haploid thalloid gametophyte. Remember it, the plant body is a gametophyte which is thalloid, that means it is not differentiated into roots, stems and leaves, and it is haploid. Got it? Now some members of liverworts have dorsiventral flattened body, dorsiventral flattened body, that I have seen shown in the diagram also. Dorsiventral flattened body with lobes which resemble the liver. That is the reason why we call it as liverworts. Liverworts. Got it? Hepaticopsida otherwise called as liverworts. Why? Because they have got dorsiventral flattened body with lobes that resemble liver. Now gametophytes is prostrate instead of erect and rhizoids are unicellular. In case of liverworts, the gametophyte is prostrate instead of being erect. Got it? Vegetative reproduction takes place by tubers, gamete, fragmentation, etc. And sexual reproduction is oogamous type, and male sex organs and female sex organs are antheridium and archegonium respectively. Okay, you know it very well. Now come to the second one, that is mosses. Now unlike the liverworts, remember it, in case of liverworts the gametophyte is nothing but your thalloid haploid one, and it has got a prostrate body, okay, flattened prostrate body. Now in case of mosses, the gametophyte has two stages. What are those? First one is the juvenile stage, that is the young stage, where it is represented by green prostrate protonema. Okay, gametophyte, once the spores germinate, it produces your gametophyte. Now first the young gametophyte or the juvenile gametophyte is a prostrate protonema which directly develops from spores. Now After that, the protonema grows and becomes adult, attains an adult stage, and now it becomes leafy upright gametophore. Okay, protonema when attains an adult stage, it becomes leafy upright gametophore, which develops from lateral buds present in protonema. Got it? Now, leafy gametophore is differentiated into multicellular rhizoids, axis and leaves. Vegetative reproduction occurs by fragmentation and budding. Sexual reproduction is oogamous type. Okay. So, we know that in case of bryophytes, sexual reproduction is oogamous type. Obviously, in case of mosses as well as in Hepaticopsida, the sexual reproduction is of oogamous type. Okay. And in case of Hepaticopsida, there was the gametophyte was the plant body and it was thalloid. That means it was not differentiated into roots, stems and leaves. But in case of your mosses, the gametophyte is differentiated into rhizoids, then axis, we can say that it has stem and leaves, which are known as leafy appendages. So, this is what your bryophytes, general structures and types of bryophytes. Now, let us see the life cycle of bryophytes. Okay. Now, you know that as far as bryophytes are concerned, its life cycle is haplodiploidic. That means it has got haploid phase as well as diploid phase. Okay, haploid diploidic means haploid gametophytic phase and a diploid sporophytic phase. Haploid gametophytic phase and a diploid sporophytic phase. Plant, remember it, the most important thing is that the plant body is gametophyte, which is haploid in nature. Got it? Now, let us see the diagram. Here the plant body is a gametophyte, which is haploid in nature. It contains antheridium and archegonium. The archegonium is the female sex organ, antheridium is the male sex organ. Antheridium produces antherozoids and inside archegonium there is presence of egg. Now, antherozoids come and fuse with egg through water in a film of water and causes fertilization to produce zygote. Once zygote is formed, this haploid combine to form a diploid zygote. From this, the diploid generation starts. Now, from diploid zygote, embryo is formed. Then after that, a sporophyte or diploid sporophyte is formed. You know that the diploid sporophyte has capsule. In case of Rixia, it is represented by only by capsule, whereas in case of your mosses, it is represented by food, seta and capsule. We are more concerned about capsule. Inside the capsule, porogenous tissues are present, which undergo your meiosis. We can say that spore mother cells, porogenous tissues are spore mother cells. They undergo meiosis. Once meiosis occurs, this diploid structure becomes haploid one. Okay. This diploid structure becomes haploid one, represented by N. Now, meiosis, when meiosis happens to spore mother cells, it gives rise to spores. The spores on germination may directly form the gametophyte, as in case of Rixia, or may first form the juvenile stage called protonema, which then give rise to the plant gametophyte. Got it? So, this is what your life cycle of bryophytes. Okay. Thank you.